Kenya. Hey, narudi nyumbani. Been around the world, seen a lot of things, you know. I'll see you.
Hello everybody, good morning. You can't imagine how I feel being here. It's wonderful, isn't it? And guess what I've got to do? I've got to introduce somebody to you who I'm seriously honored to be allowed to introduce. I'm introducing him to you Kenyans, my fellow Kenyans, to the world, because I know they're also watching. And he's a person who's very, very dear to me, as if anybody didn't know this, you know this since Friday. He actually doesn't need an introduction, because you're not seeing him here for the first time. He's been here before. This is actually his 4th trip to Kenya. And his 4th trip to Kenya is maybe more than some of us who've gone abroad and haven't yet come back home. So that's for you guys. Keep coming home, because he managed to come here. He brought the Global Entrepreneurship Summit to us, to the continent, very, very important, to Kenya. We're hosting it, so a great, great compliment to us as Kenyans, to show us firsthand that opportunities are unlimited on this continent. Social, academic standing, limited resources, notwithstanding, opportunities are unlimited. In other words, and very significant for us, and in particular for me personally with the work that I do, poverty is no excuse. For anybody who attended the GES, you'll agree with me. In other words, we have to do it for ourselves. No matter how little you have, no matter how difficult your circumstances, you can still succeed. That is what Barack Obama stands for. That is what we must instill in our children and youth, because you are your future. You are responsible for your future. But that doesn't mean that we don't look out for each other. We must look out for each other. Look out for family. And I'll tell you from a personal experience, it's always, always worth it. Look at me. I once drove my brother from the airport in a battered Volkswagen Beetle. You all saw it on Friday. He returned the favor. 27 years later, he gave me a ride from the same airport in what is called the Beast. But do I say? So, with no further ado, please let me welcome my brother, your brother, our son, and most importantly, the President of the United States of America, Barack Hussein Obama. Karibu Barack, karibu.
Coming home, I am coming home. Check me out, up in the horizon. Coming home, I am coming home. Narudi nyumbani, nyumbani, I am coming nyumbani, narudi nyumbani.
Hey, habari zenu? Wa Kenya, umpio. It is great to be back in Kenya. Thank you so much for this extraordinary welcome. I know it took a few years, but as president, I try to keep my promises. And I said I was going to come, and I'm here. So, and everybody, go ahead and have a seat. I'm going to be talking for a while. Relax. I want to thank my sister Alma for a wonderful introduction. I'm so glad that she could be with us here today, and it was, as she said, it was Alma who first guided me through Kenya almost 30 years ago. To President Kenyatta, I want to thank you once again for the hospitality that you've shown me, for our work together on this visit, and for being here today. It's a great honor. I am proud to be the first American president to come to Kenya. And of course, I'm the first Kenyan American to be President of the United States. And when it comes to the people of Kenya, particularly the youth, I believe there is no limit to what you can achieve. A young, ambitious Kenyan today should not have to do what my grandfather did and serve a foreign master. You don't need to do what my father did and leave your home in order to get a good education and access to opportunity. Because of Kenya's progress, because of your potential, you can build your future right here, right now. And the people of Kenya chose not to be defined by the hatreds of the past. You chose a better history. The voices of ordinary people and political leaders and civil society did not eliminate all these divisions, but you addressed the divisions and differences peacefully. And a new constitution was put in place declaring that every person has inherent dignity and the right to have that dignity respected and protected. A competitive election went forward, not without problems, but without the violence that so many had feared. In other words, Kenyans chose to stay together. You chose the path of Harambee. And in part because of this political stability, Kenya's economy is also emerging. And the entrepreneurial spirit that people rely on to survive in the streets of Kibera can now be seen in new businesses across the country, from the city square to the smallest villages. M-Pesa is changing the way people use money. New investment is making Kenya a hub for regional trade. When I came here as a U.S. Senator, I pointed out that South Korea's economy was the same as Kenya's when I was born, and then was 40 times larger than Kenya's. Think about that. Started at the same place. South Korea had gone here and Kenya was here. But today that gap has been cut in half, just in the last decade, which means Kenya is making progress. And meanwhile, Kenya continues to carve out a distinct place in the community of nations as a source of peacekeepers for places torn apart by conflict, a host for refugees driven from their homes, a leader for conservation, following the footprints of Wangari Maathai. Kenya is one of the places on this continent that truly observes freedom of the press, and their fearless journalists and courageous civil society members. And in the United States, we see the legacy of Kip Keino every time a Kenyan wins one of our marathons. And maybe the First Lady of Kenya is going to win one soon. Across the country, one study shows corruption costs Kenyans 250,000 jobs every year. Because every shilling that's paid as a bribe could be put into the pocket of somebody who's actually doing an honest day's work. And despite the hard-earned political progress that I spoke of, those political gains still have to be protected. New laws and restrictions could close off the space where civil society gives individual citizens a voice and holds leaders accountable. Old tribal divisions and ethnic divisions can still be stirred up. I want to be very clear here. A politics that's based solely on tribe and ethnicity is a politics that's doomed to tear a country apart. It is a failure of imagination. Of course, here in Kenya, we also know the specter of terrorism has touched far too many lives. And we remember the Americans and Kenyans who died side by side in the attack on our embassy in the 90s. We remember the innocent Kenyans who were taken from us at Westgate Mall. We weep for the nearly 150 people slaughtered at Garissa, including so many students who had such a bright future before them. We honor the memory of so many other innocent Kenyans whose lives have been lost in this struggle. So Kenya is at a crossroads, a moment filled with peril, but also enormous promise. And with the rest of my time here today, I'd like to talk about how you can seize the moment, how you can make sure we leave behind a world that's better, a world that we've borrowed from our children. In the United States, I always say that what makes America exceptional is not the fact that we're perfect. It's the fact that we struggle to improve. We're self-critical. We work to live up to our highest values and ideals, knowing that we're not always going to achieve them perfectly, but we keep on trying to perfect our union. And what's true for America is also true for Kenya. You can't be complacent and accept the world just as it is. You have to imagine what the world might be, and then push and work towards that future. Progress requires that you honestly confront the dark corners of our own past. Extend rights and opportunities to more of your citizens. See the differences and diversity of this country as a strength, just as we in America try to see the diversity of our country as a strength and not a weakness. So you can choose the path to progress, but it requires making some important choices. First and foremost, it means continuing down the path of a strong, more inclusive, more accountable, and transparent democracy. You know, democracy begins with a peacefully elected government. It begins with elections, but it doesn't stop with elections. So, your Constitution offers a roadmap to governance that's more responsive to the people through protections against unchecked power, more power in the hands of local communities. For this system to succeed, there also has to be space for citizens to exercise their rights. Corruption holds back every aspect of economic and civil life. It's an anchor that weighs you down and prevents you from achieving what you could. If you need to pay a bribe and hire somebody's brother who's not very good and doesn't come to work in order to start a business, well, that's going to create less jobs for everybody. If electricity's going to one neighborhood because they're well connected and not another neighborhood, that's going to limit development of the country as a whole. If someone in public office is taking a cut that they don't deserve, that's taking away from those who are paying their fair share. So this is not just about changing one law, although it's important to have laws on the books that are actually being enforced. It's important that not only low-level corruption is punished, but folks at the top, if they are taking from the people, that has to be addressed as well. But it's not something that is just fixed by laws or that any one person can fix. It requires a commitment by the entire nation, leaders and citizens, to change habits and to change culture. Tough laws need to be on the books. And the good news is your government is taking some important steps in the right direction. People who break the law and violate the public trust need to be prosecuted. NGOs have to be allowed to operate, who shine a spotlight on what needs to change. And ordinary people have to stand up and say, enough is enough. It's time for a better future. And as you take these steps, I promise that America will continue to be your partner in supporting investments in strong democratic institutions. America is also partnering with you on an issue that's fundamental to Kenya's future. We are investing in youth. We are investing in the young people of Kenya and the young people of this continent. Robert F. Kennedy once said, "It is a revolutionary world that we live in, and it is the young people who must take the lead." It's the young people who must take the lead. So through our Young African Leaders Initiative, we are empowering and connecting young people. Connecting young people from across the continent who are filled with energy and optimism and idealism and are going to take Africa to new heights. And these young people, they're not weighed down by the old ways. They're creating a new path. And these are the elements for success in this 21st century. To continue down this path of progress, it will be vital for Kenya to recognize that no country can achieve its full potential unless it draws on the talents of all its people, and that must include the half of Kenyans, maybe a little more than half, who are women and girls. Around the world, there is a tradition of repressing women and treating them differently and not giving them the same opportunities, and husbands beating their wives, and children not being sent to school. Those are traditions. Treating women and girls as second-class citizens, those are bad traditions. They need to change. They're holding you back. Treating women as second-class citizens is a bad tradition. It holds you back. There's no excuse for sexual assault or domestic violence. There's no reason that young girls should suffer genital mutilation. There's no place in civilized society for the early or forced marriage of children. These traditions may date back centuries. They have no place in the 21st century. These are issues of right and wrong in any culture. But they're also issues of success and failure. Any nation that fails to educate its girls or employ its women and allowing them to maximize their potential is doomed to fall behind in the global economy. You know, we're in a sports center. Imagine if you have a team and you don't let half of the team play. That's stupid. That makes no sense. And the evidence shows that communities that give their daughters the same opportunities as their sons, they are more peaceful, they are more prosperous, they develop faster, they are more likely to succeed. That's true in America, that's true here in Kenya. It doesn't matter. There are real threats out there. President Kenyatta and I spent a lot of time discussing the serious threat from Al-Shabaab that Kenya faces. The United States faces similar threats of terrorism. We are grateful for the sacrifices made by Kenyans on the front lines as part of AMISOM. We're proud of the efforts that we're making to strengthen Kenya's capabilities through our new security governance initiative. We're going to stand shoulder to shoulder with you in this fight against terrorism for as long as it takes. But as I mentioned yesterday, it is important to remember that violent extremists want us to turn against one another. That's what terrorists typically try to exploit. They know that they are a small minority. They know that they can't win conventionally. So what they try to do is target societies where they can exploit divisions. That's what happens in Iraq. That's what happens around the world. That's what happened in Northern Ireland. Terrorists who try to sow chaos, they must be met with force, and they must also be met, though, with a forceful commitment to uphold the rule of law and respect for human rights, and to treat everybody who's peaceful and law-abiding fairly and equally. Extremists who prey on distrust must be defeated by communities who stand together and stand for something different. And the most important example here is that the United States and Kenya both have Muslim minorities, but those minorities make enormous contributions to our countries. These are our brothers, they are our sisters, and so in both our countries we have to reject calls that allow us to be divided. This is true for any diverse society. And Kenya is rich with diversity, with many dozens of tribes and ethnicities and languages and religious groups. And time and again, just as we've seen the dangers of religious or ethnic violence, we've seen that Kenya is stronger when Kenyans stand united with a sense of national identity. That was the case on December 12, 1963, when cities and villages across this country celebrated the birth of a nation. It was true in 2010, when Kenya replaced the anarchy of ethnic violence with the order of a new constitution. Whatever the challenge, you will be stronger if you face it not as Christians or Muslims, Maasai, Kikuyu, Luo, any other tribe, but as Kenyans. And ultimately, that unity is the source of strength that will empower you to seize this moment of promise. That's what will help you root out corruption. That's what will strengthen democratic institutions. That's what will help you combat inequality. That's what will help you extend opportunity and educate youth and face down threats and embrace reconciliation. So I want to say, particularly to the young people here today, Kenya is on the move. Africa is on the move. You are poised to play a bigger role in this world as the shadows of the past are replaced by the light that you offer an increasingly interconnected world. And in the light of this new day, we have to learn to see ourselves and one another. We have to see that we are connected. Our fates are bound together. Because in the end, we're all part of one tribe, the human tribe. And no matter who we are or where we come from or what we look like or who we love or what God we worship, we're connected. Our fates are bound up with one another. Kenya holds within it all that diversity, and with diversity sometimes comes difficulty. But I look to Kenya's future filled with hope. And I'm hopeful because of you, the people of Kenya, especially the young people. There are some amazing examples of what's going on right now with young people. I'm hopeful because of a young man named Richard Ruto Torosia. Richard helped build Yes Youth Can. I like the phrase, Yes Youth Can. It became one of the most prominent civil society organizations in Kenya with over 1 million members. And after the violence of 2007-2008, Yes Youth Can stood up to incitement, helped bring opportunity to young people in places that were scarred by conflict. That's the kind of young leadership that we need. I'm hopeful because of a young woman named Josephine Kulea. So Josephine founded Samburu Girls Foundation, and she's already helped to rescue over 1,000 girls from abuse and forced marriage and helped place them in schools. A member of the Samburu tribe herself, she's personally planned rescue missions to help girls as young as 6 years old. And she explains that the longer a girl is in school, everything for her income, for her family, for this country, everything changes. She gives me hope. I'm hopeful because of a young woman named Jamila Abbas. So Jamila founded M-Farm, which is a mobile platform that is already used by over 14,000 people across Kenya. M-Farm makes it easy for farmers to get information that lets them match their crops with what the market demands. And studies show that it can help farmers double their sales. So here's what Jamila said. I love Kenya because you feel you are home anywhere you go. Home anywhere you go. That's the Kenya that welcomed me nearly 30 years ago as a young man. You helped make me feel at home, and standing here today as President of the United States, when I think about those young people and all the young people in attendance here, you still make me feel at home. And I'm confident that your future is going to be written across this country and across this continent by young people like you. Young men and women who don't have to struggle under a colonial power, who don't have to look overseas to realize your dreams. Yes, you can realize your dreams right here, right now. We have not inherited this land from our forebears, we have borrowed it from our children. So now's the time for us to do the hard work of living up to that inheritance, of building a Kenya where the inherent dignity of every person is respected and protected, and there's no limit to what a child can achieve. I am here to tell you that the United States of America will be a partner for you every step of the way. God bless you. Thank you. Asante sana.
But now I'm on a mission to represent my nation. But now I'm on a mission to get that victory. So switch on the TV and hope that you see me getting that victory that will make you proud of me. I went out on this mission to represent my nation. I went out on this mission to get that victory. So switch on the TV and hope that you see me getting that victory that will make you proud of me. I'm coming home, home where I belong. Whoa, I'm coming home, home where I belong. Narudi nyumbani, 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 nyumbani. Narudi nyumbani, nyumbani, nyumbani.
This is Fountain TV, refreshing a thirsty world.